Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we'll be discussing Journey to a Cloud Capability with Cloud Application Portfolio Management. My name is Doug Welsby, and I'm the Channel Manager here at Wickersoft. I'm also joined by my colleague, Jose Levy, our Director of Cloud Services. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar chat feature to submit questions. I will address these questions during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as I will be emailing a link to the presentation once it's been posted to our YouTube channel. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jose, who will be handling the webinar.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So today we have our second part of our journey to cloud capability. Last week we talked about CloudFit, and I'll review that shortly, just for those that weren't part of that, and also to articulate why CloudFit is so important. It's really two different modes that we're actually working in. So it's important that we take both of them into account, especially CloudFit, as we move towards application portfolio management. All right, great. So yeah, I wanted to highlight our Cloud Platform Services catalog and where we are in terms of the offering. We're right here talking within our solution stack for our Fit for Cloud and application portfolio management. So it's part of a comprehensive, set of services and products that we have within Wickersoft for cloud capability. We can go from helping you define your strategy if you need some support or need an update, to doing workload assessments. Those are specific applications that you want to take to the cloud, to, if you're more advanced, doing a cloud security and spend health checks to see whether you're optimizing that. So this is the approach is that this is a long-term process. The cloud is an enabling capability within the organization that you need to have. It's gonna, we're all in a journey in terms of how we're developing the capability, and we can support your organization in any state where you are at, whether you're just beginning or whether you are, well advanced in terms of how you're consuming and leveraging the cloud. So just a reminder, why are we doing this? Well, all of our organizations need to become digital companies in terms of how we include additional services, digital services, to what we're currently offering. It's a matter of transforming in order to provide more to our customers, more to our employees, evolve our products. So that's really the goal of adopting and developing a cloud capability. We believe in these 4 cloud principles. The cloud is evolving constantly, and for the good, in terms of the capabilities and services that are available. There's innovation waves that are going through the cloud that you need to take advantage. This technology component, because it can be delivered quickly and in most cases very cost effectively, can bring IT and the business together to talk about strategies to grow the business in order to meet stakeholder goals and objectives for the organization. In most cases, if we're talking about the leading technologies, there's innovation and transformation that's involved. So there's a double benefit by having that discussion between IT and the business, because you're driving innovation. And really what that leads to is that your organization needs to leverage cloud technologies, and you need to have a committed and dedicated effort for making this happen and for getting the benefits from the cloud. So just a couple of trends, and I know this is a little dated, it's about a year old, but it gives us a perspective, and it allows you to actually place yourself within that cloud journey. The first, on the left, we have, respondents to the Right Scale State of Cloud survey, responding to what their level of maturity is. And it's interesting that heavy use is around a third of organizations, and everyone below is still trying to get to that level. And in reality, I mentioned that we have cloud innovation waves in terms of new services that are being offered, and there's between the major providers, and we have a technical preference towards Microsoft Azure. There's releases being done on a monthly basis. It's very difficult to keep track of all of the new capabilities that are available and improvements to the existing capabilities. Just in the past couple of weeks, announcements on security for Microsoft Azure through Azure Sentinel, which is basically Microsoft exposing or offering their internal threat detection capability to customers through Azure. That became available. There were improvements announced in terms of the database throughput in the last couple of weeks that are fairly significant. So on a quarterly basis, there's improvements, which means that even if you're advanced, you're going to need to have a lot of folks dedicated and that cloud capability up and running to leverage everything that's coming out. In terms of the initiatives, you see that cost savings is the primary one, and like I said, this is about a year dated right now. What's actually taking place is the second one, moving more workloads to the cloud, is driven by modernization, and which is really where the benefit is. In other words, taking the opportunity that you can go to the cloud to actually make improvements in your process, in the service that supports the value stream, the business capability. So I anticipate that the moving more workloads to the cloud and really improvement of the supporting of the process that we're supporting is really going to take over, because that's where we actually get a lot more benefit. But you can see that there's a lot of other initiatives in terms of going to the cloud and implementing CI/CD, which is related to DevOps. That's increasing actually this year, so and important for you to take that into account. And you can see that implementing a cloud-first strategy is also moving up. You would have never heard organizations actually thinking that way, but I think that's it is aligned to what we're talking about here in terms of cloud fit and cloud application portfolio management. So let me make sure that we are okay. I'll come back to that slide in a second. Here, the cloud capability topic is really important because we have very well defined IT capabilities and roles and services and IT structures, organizational structures that are very well defined. Then within that same survey, there are a large number of organizations that said that they do have a cloud capability, but really what that means is that you have defined roles and you have dedicated organizational resources for leveraging everything that's coming out from the cloud. And what that means is that at any moment in time, you can have a discussion with your business stakeholders on AI, data, machine learning. Can you actually do that right now within your organization? And I think that's the real definition of whether you actually have that cloud capability. Can you at any point in time take your business user and through that discussion on how to leverage those new capabilities that are available right now. So I think that's the true measure of the capability, whether you can actually leverage what's actually coming as a new cloud service. And then the other important concept is that what we need to do is, eventually, and it doesn't have to be here, we reference Microsoft, but it doesn't have to be Microsoft, it could be generic, which then, you decide which vendor provides a better service. Again, we believe that Microsoft Azure is superior in a number of ways. So the target architecture for cloud needs to be built so that if you have solutions that are going to be built you can very easily decide which services you're going to leverage and how you're going to go about doing the business case from a cloud infrastructure standpoint. So this is another step in your journey. Do you have a target architecture? Can you talk about leading edge technology with your business, and do you have a cloud target architecture to actually provide that? So that's those are the two questions that I would challenge you with. So in terms of cloud adoption, we're now going to switch to our topic of cloud fit and cloud application portfolio management. So right now, can you answer these questions to your leadership team? If your CXO came to you and said, how much can we leverage cloud technologies in the organization? Can you actually answer that? Which are the business capabilities that, and apps that we should, move first to the cloud? And you probably, in most cases, most organizations, very few are not actually doing anything in the cloud. So, right now you probably already moved some, you did what we call lift and shift, which is just taking commodity, images to the cloud from a cost saving standpoint. So, but can you actually address business capabilities and applications, not just infrastructure? Because now we're talking about, can we have a positive impact, a favorable impact on improving that capability? Which applications then should go first? Once you have defined, now this is about sequencing. And then the last is, when can we expect, the benefits from the cloud application and services? When are they going to be delivered? So, these are questions that are going to become even more pressing as more capability on cloud platforms is available. More pressure is on the business to actually improve and integrate digital services as part of what you're currently doing, if not, full transformation, if that's an opportunity. So what we're trying to do is, with Cloud Fit and Cloud Application Portfolio Management, help you address these specific questions. So again, for those that weren't with us last time, this is our approach, Cloud Fit and Cloud APM. Cloud Fit is an enterprise architecture, business architecture oriented assessment where you're going to analyze applications and do an assessment based on very, very specific cloud factors, cloud assessment factors. This is very different, and I'll show in the next slide, very different than a technical assessment. There's many, many tools available that will do discovery and tell you your entire stack and the feasibility of actually taking them to the cloud. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about actually drilling into cloud assessment factors and doing ratings to then objectively determine, what should be our first step. And defining scope is really important in this, and I'll talk about that in a second. What comes out of the inventory, you're going to do analysis, and then the recommendations. In other words, is the application cloud fit? Should we actually be doing this? Should we be considering it for moving it to the cloud? Because if it is highly rated, or if it is highly ranked, the idea is that we're going to then create a very specific cloud application portfolio that is driven to that capability, putting that capability on the cloud from a technical standpoint, and then impacting the business capability that we're trying to the effect. We have here, just a standard cycle, and in terms of create, select, plan, manage, this is just a standard portfolio management life cycle. You could change it to whatever you want, but the idea is that we're going to develop business cases. So there's demand. We're going to select the ones that make the most sense. That's just your prioritization exercise based on the factors that are most applicable to you. Business value, obviously, and technical risk and complexity being the most important. We're going to plan. So that is depending on your mode. The application will have multiple components that are included, and we're going to have that application roadmap. And then finally, we're going to manage. So somebody's going to own the delivery of that in whatever mode you want, whether it's agile or waterfall or hybrid. It doesn't really matter. The importance is to deliver that capability so that we can have that application in the cloud and impact the business favorably. It's important to call it Cloud APM because there's a whole set of other efforts within the organization. And here we're trying to focus on delivering and impacting the business through cloud as quickly as possible by improving our capabilities. I showed this last time. This is a standard life cycle for the process. We do have a tool. I'm going to give you a feature flash in a second of what it's all about. But essentially, first we're going to inventory and classify. We have a number of assessment factors, and these are generic but related to cloud migration. You don't have to use all of them. We do a dialogue and analysis with you about which ones are most important to you. Obviously, the analysis is performed and the recommendations. The most important part of the cloud fit is really the output, which is decisions on what is most fit for cloud, which then we can take to our application portfolio management. Want to take a step here because there's been some questions on what exactly is the assessment, and there's plenty of tools out there for doing discovery for cloud. You can basically, run it against your domain, and you're going to actually get the inventory of infrastructure that you have currently available for migration, whether it's physical machine, virtual machines, as you see. You have your CMDB, which probably has a lot of that information already. The issue here is that these are technical inventories that actually haven't, most of the time haven't gone through the filter of doing an assessment for cloud. So while, we could very easily right now tell you, hey, you have a huge opportunity set for moving things for cloud. Well, unfortunately, none of these analyses actually tell you what is best suited for cloud and which ones you should be doing first. So that's why this cloud fit is very much, like I said, business architecture focused, enterprise architecture focused, because we're at the upper levels of architecture design process, and we're focusing less on the pure technical inventory, which is what you can do in a fairly common way. The value here is in doing the analysis and then determining which applications are best suited based on all those assessment factors that we've included in cloud fit. To add to that, this cloud fit assessment, like I said, is driven by business architecture and enterprise architecture, which means that we're focused on capabilities and business mapping. I would say that you could divide this in half. Everything on the right is infrastructure and technical in nature, where everything on the left is more based on business and enterprise architecture. So take that into account, because again, most cloud assessments that are in the market focus only on the right side, which is all the technical components. And what we really want to do is how can we impact the business by taking more applications to the cloud. So after that, we're going to get a score, and we're going to find out, okay, which ones are, here we got our CRM. That's pretty good. That's pretty high. We have our data warehouse. It's low, but we're going to look at it and see if we can bring it in just based on its technical complexity. So you're going to go through, get your application scored, and then we're going to move into what would be our cloud application portfolio management. Just from a business case standpoint, what are the targets? And you can see here that we have about 35% of this is just a case study, just for illustrative purposes, that one benchmark that you could use, do we have up to 35% of our applications in cloud in the different modes, whether it's platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. So from the output of your cloud fit, these are kind of the benchmarks that we're looking for to see if we have that opportunity set for the cloud for our organization. Flash, or what this means from a cloud fit standpoint. So we are in a repository where we have done the inventory of our applications. There's a lot of other components, again, that you could be tracking here, but in this case, we're only focused on applications. So the idea is that we're going to go through, and again, this data can be brought into this repository, usually by Excel from CMDB data that you might have. There's different ways of automating bringing up the data, but the concept is that we have, if we run our applications, we're going to focus here on BI. I'm going to click into it, and you see that all the assessment factors that I talked about are listed here. So we're going to go through, and just the standard application survey data is here in terms of showing who owns it, some critical dates, complexity values, and all other related technical elements and business elements. We have business mappings. Again, this is less relevant at this point because while it's very important and it will play into our ratings, what we're really looking for are our cloud assessment factors. So this scoring is really what drives the final analysis. And here we have taken a what I'll call a comprehensive approach. In other words, we've included everything that we could within our cloud fit assessment. You don't have to actually do that. In fact, below here you see that we have some values that haven't been completed. But the idea of understanding the workload and whether we can take it to the cloud, understanding its architecture components from that data that we brought in, what's the financial impact, and we could include financial values, but again, here we're just simply doing scoring, risk in terms of do we have competency internally, is it a very technically complex application? Again, if you're in the SAP realm, for instance, that's where this is very high, and other factors. So those scoring values that I showed earlier are coming from this assessment. We can go through every one of our critical apps. The scope of this actually usually starts. You will filter down to either an application set that you want to focus on, or a capability. So here's some capabilities, and within the capability, we will have already mapped out the set of applications that we're going to be actually rating. So that's one approach. The other can be just focusing on the specific capability. On the specific application itself. So, and what we want to come out with is, you see that we have some our views from a cloud fit perspective. What we want to come out is, okay, so from a benefit standpoint, can we actually have all of our apps ranked? And you can see there's some empty data here, so this assessment hasn't been finished. But the idea is that from here, once we do those rankings, we can actually have a final fit for cloud rating. So we can go to workload view and look at elasticity, scalability, latency, and by the way, in the good thing about, or the great thing about using a tool like this is you can very easily go through and do your rankings as needed. These are done in a workshop type discussion where the owner or technical expert can actually go through and do the ratings in order to get the output. So once we complete that process, we're going to end up with our list of applications that are fit for cloud. I'll just and we will then we will integrate this tool to our application portfolio management tool in order to go to the next step, which is really what we want to talk about. So now we're in the realm of cloud application portfolio. We've done already our assessment, and now we can begin the process of evaluating, fully evaluating our cloud application portfolio. So really the focus here is that we're trying to develop one or multiple portfolios. It doesn't have to be one, by the way. Yes, business capability and applications are the primary ones, but you could be doing it by digital transformation initiative. You could be doing multiple portfolios related to that cloud fit assessment. So there's multiple perspectives that you could be obtaining, again, to answer those 4 questions that I said earlier. How are we going to leverage cloud? What is the value that we're going to get from the cloud? How is cloud going to impact the business? There's some core planning features that the solution has, where you can actually see, what the sequencing, what the interdependencies, the timeline and deliverables that are going to occur from actually executing the cloud migration or modernization, if that's the case, if you're going to rebuild. Cost to business value, very important. That's the reason why we're doing this. So there's in Create, there's a cloud business case that you're going to be generating, and we're going to be tracking that. I'll show from an application standpoint how we can do that. The other important component, no matter what mode you're using, whether you're using waterfall or agile, is your capacity to have resources in your organization participate in this. So I think that's probably in all of the cloud surveys one of the critical challenges right now. Just resources available to work on these initiatives. So we provide you with a robust feature set for doing that capacity planning, and again, no matter what mode, and what tool really. Whether you're doing waterfall or agile, and whatever current project portfolio management solution you're using, we can actually integrate that capacity planning into these views. And then finally, obviously, reporting and insights. That's what's going to answer our questions for our executive team. So in terms of the process, so the first 3 have to do with what I showed earlier. We're going to inventory. We're going to understand the ownership lifecycle usage. We'll do that in our cloud application. We'll go through our cloud assessment factors that I showed. Can we take the application to the cloud? Then we get into the cloud application portfolio use cases. Obviously, the business case is of primary importance. What's the cost of going to the cloud, both from a long-term consumption standpoint, but also initial setup or migration, the actual workload move. What is the timing of delivering that capability to the business in the cloud? Again, that's where the cloud application portfolio will give you that perspective. And then go through your cycle in terms of if you've done portfolio management before, it's very similar in terms of selecting projects, planning projects, and managing projects. So you will have project managers, scrum masters, however you call them, product owners, go through the motions of actually planning and managing the delivery. And then most important is that this doesn't end. It's continuous. So as new services come up in the cloud, you need to redo your assessment, because we need to determine whether, again, we have more within our application landscape that we can take to the cloud. And then similarly, the perspective of having an application portfolio for the cloud only follows, and this needs to be a continuous process for digital transformation. So we find that this is probably if you've done assessment, technical assessment, and understand what you can take to the cloud, and you're stuck, using these 2 modes is probably easier, because again, you're aligning to business capability, and at the same time, you're seeing your cloud application portfolio in a very singular context. You can integrate other IT portfolios that might be going on, but here we're looking at it strictly in terms of the delivery of value from the cloud. So here we have this is an application portfolio, or a representation of an application portfolio. We're using one plan, which is a project portfolio management solution that's extremely flexible. It can operate in many different modes, and in terms of whether you want to do waterfall or agile planning, whether you want to combine those. So if you haven't seen one plan, please give us a call and we can give you a walkthrough, because it's extremely flexible, extremely the user experience is very fast, very smooth, and can facilitate a lot of decision support. In this case, we've taken our 3 different applications that we did assessment for. You saw that I did BI. I looked into the BI application and completed the assessment. We also have CRM and data warehouse, and we have a number of different projects on states and status in terms of our ability to take this to the cloud. We have a budget and benefits, so we've actually gone through and done the business case for these. And by the way, you can actually, literally, affect changes right on the grid. So, like I said, it's very friendly. But if we wanted to do something much more detail in terms of our cost analysis, one plan includes a financial planner. So, in this particular view, we have primary budgets that were created for all of these applications, and you can see here, the summary values, and whether we have 3.4 million of planned total. Planned totals of 3.5 and a primary budget 3.4. So we're slightly above our target, but you can see that you can actually create new targets in terms of how you want to go through spend. So very, very flexible, and also your ability to do budget forecasting and actuals is shown here. In terms of the benefits, this came from our business case, and again, we have templates, but if you happen to have your own, we can accommodate those. Most important is that the application and the project is actually aligned to the capability. So as I said, and now we're talking about alignment, and also to workload, which is cloud. What mode of cloud are we actually employing? If you're doing agile, we have WSJF as our prioritization. So if you wanted to actually use it in order to see which ones are our highest priority projects within the applications, you can actually do that and then start sequencing them. We do have roadmaps here or for our individual projects, so we can see where our cloud journey begins and ends in terms of our projects for taking this application to the cloud. And the last one is resources. So if we wanted to understand all the folks that are actually involved in taking this to cloud, we can see it here. And we're doing teams, and we can see where the capacity planning has come in terms of our in this case, I believe that we have even user stories here, so we can get to that level if needed, or individuals. So, and you can see an individual and a specific project load. And again, we're looking at what I would say a subset, a small application portfolio for 3 different applications. So what else can this approach provide? If we wanted to go into prioritization for any specific, and here we can order by capability. We can pick up the item. So we see here one that is off track, but it's fairly important. So we can actually pick it up and move it above. That will resequence that project, make it more important. We can then save that as a scenario if we wanted to, in order to affect our selection and prioritization. This is really the prioritization activity that we're going through here. So we do have the ability to show prioritization. The next is if we wanted to, have more of a Kanban portfolio approach, we can do that also. And we're doing prioritization here, but if and status. But we could change it based on the custom field set that we want to manage here. So again, we've gone from having a straight portfolio inventory list to actually having a board all within one experience, one interface. So we'll go back to our application summary. And then finally, having all this data within our application portfolio, we can then drive the values in the reporting. So in this particular scenario, we have it tied to a Power BI content pack where you can actually go through and take your leadership through where you are in terms of a specific application portfolio. If you haven't seen Power BI before, then we can just start focusing on individual applications and what they're costing and when we're going to have them out. This is a TCO application total cost of ownership analysis, and here we have the same cost breakouts that we saw in our application portfolio, being rendered on a time phase basis, and by cost category also, by the way. So we can see where we're actually spending our money. And if you needed to actually do breakout of capital project costs, you can see here that it could very easily be the visualization can very easily be rendered from once we've gone through and done our application portfolio. So we're putting a new spin on an old concept. So application portfolio management, also otherwise known as application rationalization, has been around for a while, but we believe that using it for as a focus on cloud capability can actually accelerate your organization leveraging those services in order to drive greater value for the organization. So as it has done historically, application portfolio management integrates different parts of the organization. IT, enterprise architecture, depending whether it's IT or out, business architecture, and the business units themselves that are asking for greater digital capabilities. Application portfolio management for cloud, allows you to focus on business innovation through cloud services, because again, if you're building that cloud capability and you're doing application portfolio management, then you can address, are we using IoT? How can we use IoT within the organization? How can we impact the business through the new services that are available on cloud platforms? Application portfolio management allows you to do the cloud business case. So in this case, we're very, very explicit. And it's from a cost and benefit standpoint, obviously. Cost takeout is usually the primary reason for doing cloud platform services, but in our case, we're really stressing that modernization takes place and you actually look for benefits. And there's different ways of and different value points that you can get from doing cloud. It's not always just shutting down a data center. So having that well-developed business case will will drive more usage and the application portfolio. I've talked about alignment already. IT in the business. I would say that that's of primary importance in cloud application portfolio management. You can have that discussion in terms of how you're gonna enable the business with by taking applications to the cloud. The last two, are more traditional, understanding the dependencies. So there's infrastructure components, API components, much more than just the app. You're going to be able to see that if you do cloud application portfolio management, and then find, again, within that target architecture for cloud, how you're going to leverage existing components or move those existing components to a cloud mode. And finally, risk, compliance, and security, they're all better addressed in when you're actually thinking about taking it to the cloud. So having a cloud application portfolio can actually support you getting there. So in summary, we want to end up having a cloud capability that is on a continuous process of developing that strategy on how you're going to evolve IT and enable the business. You're going to do assessments on a continued business. It's more than a technical assessment. It's really addressing those cloud-specific factors. You can do an inventory of all your infrastructure right now and apps, but which ones are most suited and which ones where will you get the most bang for the buck. In addition to just moving virtual images to the cloud, you're going to go through your migration workload moves or re-architecting depending on what you're doing, and then we talk about security is can't be compromised. There's a huge improvement that has occurred. There's really no reason not to be using cloud now, given everything that's been added to the public cloud. And there's hybrid cloud also options that allow you to meet any specific requirements that you might have. And we talk about optimizing because you have to manage your spend, make sure that you're not overspending in your cloud consumption, and you'll give yourself more resources, financial resources, to even take more applications to the cloud by being very good in the way that you consume cloud services. So we're at the end of our presentation. We highly recommend that you initiate a cloud fit assessment and score your applications, not just inventory and determine which ones technically would fit here. We're trying to address a number of different factors to see whether an application is fit for cloud. For those that you select, develop the business case, so then you can go through and execute in a cloud application portfolio. So we think this works well. It's not, it can't fit, depending on where you are in the organization. You can take advantage of this process and tools in order to drive greater dialogue, greater change within the organization. And if you're currently executing initiatives, you can integrate existing data into the two solutions that I showed, into the two applications that I showed, in order to achieve the end goal of driving more capability, business capability, and to the organization. With that, I want to thank you for joining us, and if you happen to have any questions or would like to trial any of what I showed today, the solutions that I showed, please drop us an email or give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to understand your current situation and how you can leverage these solutions.